Fear turned to hope. How one secretary transformed a millionaire CEO in 30 days with one amazing ACT. Sarah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she sat at her small desk in the bustling office park. Juggling hours of work, a sick father, and raising her 7-year-old son alone, her bright smile was often dimmed by the shadows of her responsibilities. Every day carried an unrelenting sense of urgency. She typed in a frenzied rhythm, processing endless paperwork while keeping an eye on the clock. The phone rang, breaking her train of thought. She proudly answered, but the drowsiness lingered behind her words. She wished for just a moment, a breath of fresh air, when the door swung open, and in walked David, the stoic CEO whose mere presence rattled everyone around. At first, Sarah kept her distance. He was a man of power, a figure swathed in wealth and detachment, a stark contrast to her daily grind. However, as weeks melted into each other, she began to glimpse the loneliness behind his polished facade. The way his eyes seemed to wander into a distant void during meetings evoked an unexpected sense of compassion within her. He appeared trapped in his office, trapped by his success. Each time she handed him documents, she felt a flicker of connection, an unspoken understanding. Everything changed one hectic morning when news broke of a fire that engulfed a local shelter, leaving families with nothing. Panic swept through the office as co-workers discussed the tragedy. Sarah's heart raced. She felt an all-consuming need to help. The fire didn't just consume buildings, it swallowed hope. "We can do something," she whispered as she looked around. The realization hit her like a thunderclap. It was time to turn fear into action. She organized a charity event, fueled by her drive and determination. As excitement grew, so did her doubts. Would the corporate world still care about community? To reinvigorate that humanity felt like an uphill battle. But then she remembered David. Digging beneath the surface of their interactions, she thought perhaps this was a shared journey for both of them, a chance to connect to their true selves and the community they were a part of. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On the night of the charity event, the atmosphere was electric. People filled the room, laughter intertwined with shared stories, and hope seemed to seep through every corner. Then, David took the stage. Nervousness palpable, he opened his heart. "I've spent years climbing the corporate ladder, forgetting the value of relationships," he began, tears glistening in his eyes. The room, once murmuring with polite applause, now hung on his every word, empathy radiating from every listener. In that moment, Sarah felt tears pricking at her eyes. Was this the change they both sought? As David continued, a weight seemed to lift, but as the applause faded, an electric silence filled the room. Their journey together was just beginning, leaving behind unanswered questions echoing within. How would their connection evolve? What did it mean for the future of their community? And, would Sarah's act of kindness finally shine a light on the recognition she yearned for? The answers lingered in the air, inviting wondrous curiosity for what lay ahead. As the applause began to fade, a palpable atmosphere of sincerity enveloped the room. Sarah watched closely as David stepped down from the stage, his demeanor transformed, lighter somehow. Questions raced through her mind, a whirlwind of possibilities. Would he continue engaging with the cause? Would he step outside his corporate bubble and embrace the very community he so desperately needed to reconnect with? People began to approach David, their expressions a mix of admiration and gratitude. He looked genuinely touched, as if the weight of his ambition had lifted, allowing kindness to seep through. Sarah felt a surge of hope, but with it came a flicker of apprehension. Would this change hold, or was it simply a spark that would extinguish in the light of the daily grind? "Sarah." A voice broke through her thoughts. It was Elaine, a colleague who had helped with the event planning. This was incredible. I can't believe how he opened up. Elaine's face radiated awe and excitement. It was, Sarah agreed, a smile creeping onto her lips, yet uncertainty lingered. Do you think you will keep this momentum going? I hope so. But it's up to him, right? And maybe to us too. Elaine squeezed Sarah's arm quickly before diving back into the crowd, leaving Sarah alone to ponder the night's possibilities. David had made a brave leap, but was it enough to change a lifetime of habits? She had to find out. Determined, she scanned the crowd for him, tucked away in a corner, engaging with a small group. He appeared relaxed and genuinely interested, but there was still a barrier, a wall built by years of isolation. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her own uncertainties. She approached slowly, heart racing. As she drew closer, the voices faded, and it was just the two of them in that bustling sea of people. David, she said softly, catching his attention. Sarah. What did you think? His eyes sparkled, and she felt a connection deepen. I thought it was amazing. Really? You shared something profound, and it felt real, she replied, searching for the right words. But, what's next for you? For us? David paused, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. I'd like to make this more than just a one-time event. I've been inspired tonight. Good. Sarah's heart sang at his words. Together we could really make a difference. You're not just a CEO, you have influence, connections. We can help rebuild that shelter, and so much more. He nodded, the seriousness of her words sinking in. I'd like that, Sarah. I've been so caught up in the business. I hadn't realized how much I was missing. Feeling bold, she continued, you're the kind of leader this community needs. You can reach so many people, help them find hope again. Unexpected emotions shimmered in his eyes. And you're the pulse of this place. Let us work on something together. As they exchanged ideas, Sarah felt an exhilaration surging within her, a purpose unfurling amidst the chaos of her life. They brainstormed projects, fundraising ideas, and ways David could share his story further in the community. But in the corner of her mind, anxiety lingered. What sacrifices would this new mission demand from her? How much of herself was she willing to give to make this a reality? As they wrapped up for the night, David leaned closer. There's something special about you, Sarah. I haven't felt this alive in years. Let us not lose this energy. Agreed, she whispered, uncertainty still brewing. But with that uncertainty came a spark of determination. Stepping out of the venue into the cool night air, Sarah knew the journey ahead would be tough. But change was often messy and unpredictable. And as they headed in opposite directions, a thought blossomed. Would this transition bring them together, or pull them apart? The urgency of the moment hung heavy as she walked away. She felt a blend of thrill and fear intertwining in her belly. What if pushing for this change led to something more profound, something neither of them anticipated? Sarah's heart pounded, the echo of their conversation amplifying her thoughts. What was she truly ready to risk for hope? As she looked back toward the venue, the night wasn't over. It was only the beginning. Would she dare step into that uncertain space with David? Would their journey lead to a greater transformation, or would it unravel all that they had built? The answers loomed ahead, calling her into the unknown. The crispness of the night air felt almost electric as Sarah stepped away from the venue. Her thoughts swirled like leaves caught in a gust, intertwining doubts with flickering hopes. Could she truly step into this new mission alongside David? What would it mean for her, her life, her career, her heart? The following days brought a frenzy of meetings and planning sessions. David dove into the projects with renewed passion, and she found herself swept up in his enthusiasm. As they coordinated volunteers and mapped out strategies for the shelter, their bond grew stronger. But as the weeks passed, Sarah noticed a shift. David was increasingly consumed by his corporate responsibilities. Phone calls, late nights at the office, they all started taking him away from their plans. Each time an email pinged or his phone rung, a small part of her heart sank. Would the spark of inspiration he had ignited begin to flicker out? One morning, as they sat together in a local cafe after a long night of brainstorming, she gathered her courage. "David, I know how busy you are," she started, her voice steady despite the churn of emotions. "But this project means a lot to me. Can we make a pact? No matter what happens at work, we commit to this cause." His brow furrowed, and for a moment, he didn't respond. The warmth in his gaze flickered, replaced by an expression of concern. "You don't understand, Sarah. They rely on me. I can't just step back now. I don't want to let anyone down." The words hung heavy between them. A wave of sadness washed over her. "But what about the people in our community? What they need?" Deep down, a flicker of anger sparked. Was he just going to shuffle back into the comfortable cocoon of corporate life, leaving behind what he had promised? I know, he rubbed his temples, frustration apparent. "I thought I could do both, but I didn't realize how much pressure there was at the office. Maybe I need to reevaluate my priorities." Sarah's heart raced. She wanted him to prioritize their work together, but knew that every challenge he faced at work felt insurmountable. "We can adapt. We can find a way through this together." She saw the internal struggle in his eyes. The shift she had hoped for was delicate, and it was slipping. "You have to understand that it's not just about our project," he said softly, as if confessing a secret panic. "There's so much at stake. I have a responsibility to my team, and I can't afford to disappoint them." His vulnerability drew her in and shattered her resolve. She nodded, her heart heavy with a mix of empathy and disappointment. "I get it, David. But I want more than just talk. I need to feel that we're in this for the long haul." Days turned into weeks again, and Sarah caught herself staring at her phone, willing it to ring. Would he reach out? Would he remember their pact or ignore it amidst the noise of his corporate world? Nights lingered where she'd dream of communities transformed and futures bright, yet wake up to the stark silence of uncertainty. One evening as she stacked her notes after another silent meeting, she felt a weight deep in her chest. She had committed so much to this cause, to him, yet felt increasingly alone. What if he never truly stepped away from the shadows of his responsibility? Just then, her phone buzzed under the pile of papers. It was a message from David. "Let us meet tonight. I need to talk." Her heart quickened. What was he about to say? The hope and fear mingled once more in her stomach, and she couldn't shake the feeling that everything might change with this meeting. Could this be the moment they'd been waiting for, or was it the beginning of something that would pull them apart entirely? The cafe was alive with late-night chatter, yet it all faded into the background as Sarah walked through the door. David was already seated at their usual spot, the warmth of his smile cutting through the chill in her chest. But the moment she saw him, she noticed his eyes a storm of concern, determination, and something else, fear. "Hey," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Thanks for coming." She slid into her seat, trying to mask her anxiety with a smile. "Of course. I got your message. What is going on?" David leaned back, taking a deep breath as if he were about to dive into deep waters. "I've been thinking a lot about everything work, our project, what you said. I've been juggling a lot, and it feels like I'm dropping the ball." The admission broke the ice, but Sarah could tell his thoughts were racing. "You're doing what you can, David. But I want to know where I fit into this picture. I feel like I'm losing you to that world." He nodded, frustration flickering in his eyes. "That's what scares me the most. I can't just walk away from the company. There are people counting on me. But I don't want to lose this, either." He gestured between them, the emotional distance feeling palpable. Sarah felt a shard of hope pierce through her worry. "So what can we do? We can make this work, I know we can." "I need to be honest," he said slowly, his voice barely a whisper. I've been approached for a big promotion that requires even more of my time, and it could change our entire project. But I don't know if I want it. I just keep coming back to what we're building together. The impact of his words hit her like a wave. You don't have to take that position, you know. If it's going to tear you away from what we're doing. He cut her off gently, the intensity in his gaze deepening. But it's not just about me anymore. If I turn down this promotion, I'd be letting my team down. But if I accept it, I risk losing what we have and the community we're trying to help. It feels like a no-win situation. Sarah felt hope start to flutter, but paired it with the heavy weight of reality. You have to make your own decision, but whatever you choose, I want you to feel it's right. I want us both to fight for this together. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Maybe we can figure out a different way to approach this. If I can set boundaries at work, dedicate time when we're all in on this project together, would that be enough? Absolutely. She felt a spark of warmth surge through her, intermingling with the worries that had danced in her mind for weeks. Let us create a plan. We can prioritize what really matters. The moment felt fragile but full of promise. Her pulse quickened with excitement at the possibility of what could come next, the adventure of not only fighting for the project but for their connection. As their discussion shifted to ideas and hopes, laughter came easily, filling the space that had felt so heavy just moments before. The energy between them brightened as they shared the vision of their mission. Then, in a quiet moment between plans and dreams, David looked into her eyes. Sarah, I need you to promise me something. If things start spiraling again and I start to lose sight of what's important, pull me back. Give me the strength to stick with our cause. Just as long as you promise the same. They laughed softly, but beneath that laughter, a new pact had formed, one that went beyond project timelines or even potential promotions. Yet, as the evening drew to a close and they got up to leave, a small flicker of concern returned. Would their promises hold up when faced with realities of corporate life? As they stepped into the night, Sarah caught a fleeting look on David's face that reminded her of the uncertainty ahead. And just before they walked their separate ways, he turned back, urgency in his eyes. Sarah, this is just the beginning. I'll fight for us, I'll fight for this project. I just hope we can make it all work. In that moment, standing at the crossroad of belief and doubt, she wondered if every fight was worth the kind of passion they were about to face. What if their dreams turned into more than just a commitment, but something they could achieve together? Or would they risk losing each other in the pursuit? The rain began to fall softly, dappling the pavement as Sarah walked home, each step echoing her thoughts. They had made a pact, but could promises really withstand the storm of corporate life? The weight of expectations pressed down on her, and even the cool moisture in the air couldn't chill the warmth swirling inside her as she thought of David. Arriving home, she tossed her bag on the couch, her mind replaying the evening's conversation. She felt excitement blend with apprehension. What if David didn't set those boundaries? What if he got swept away, as he always did? The frantic world of corporate ambition could be all-consuming, and she was afraid he might lose sight of their dreams. Time ticked by slowly as she reflected. Her phone buzzed, cutting through the thick silence. It was a message from David. Can we meet tomorrow? I have something important to share, it read. Her heart raced. Of course. What is going on? She replied, curiosity prickling at her thoughts. As she waited for a response, images of David filled her mind. His drive, his passion, and that flicker of fear in his eyes when they talked about the promotion. She realized just how deeply she cared for him, how entwined their lives had become in this project. It wasn't just about the work, it was about building a future together. Just wanted to share my decision about the promotion, he texted back. The weight of the message hit her. Was he truly ready to choose? Her breath hitched as thoughts of their discussion surged back. I'm proud of you, whatever you decide. But please be honest with me. David replied almost instantly, "I promise to be. Let us talk tomorrow." The hours passed, but sleep eluded her. Finally, the morning sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the room in shades of yellow and warmth. It felt like a fresh start, a new chance to fight for what they believed in. She couldn't help but feel invigorated. She arrived at their meeting spot, an art gallery this time, where soft music mingled with the scent of fresh coffee. David was already there, his usual confident demeanor slightly shaken, like a tightrope walker balancing on the edge of uncertainty. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of excitement. "I've made my decision." Her heart raced as he took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm turning down the promotion." The words hung in the air, potent with possibility. A rush of relief shot through her. "Are you sure?" "There's a lot at stake, David," he nodded, determination anchoring his gaze. "I thought about it all night. I realized what's really important. I don't want to lose what matters most to me, this project, our vision." You. Her breath caught in her throat. This was everything they had talked about, everything they had hoped for. "Wow, that's brave," she murmured, tears pricking her eyes. "But there's something else," he continued, his voice dropping slightly. "I want to take our project to the next level. I have a plan." She leaned closer, anticipation bubbling inside her. "Tell me." "I want us to pitch to investors, big ones. If we can get them on board, we can really make a difference. The community needs this." The idea electrified her, awakening the fire of their shared mission. "That sounds incredible. But we'll have to prepare a lot." David smiled, that familiar spark igniting in his eyes. "Together. Yes. We can do this." The thrill surged through her, melding seamlessly with the certainty she felt about them. As they dove into plans, brainstorming ideas and sketching on napkins, the world around them faded. Every moment felt like stepping into something greater, a new chapter of hope beginning to unfold. Yet, beneath her excitement lingered a shadow of fear. Would they find the right investors? Would their efforts be enough to bring change? Just as they began to map out their strategy, the gallery door swung open, and a tall figure stepped inside. Sarah felt her stomach twist as the sharp features of an old colleague, Marcus, glided effortlessly into view. He was someone whose cutthroat reputation preceded him, a man who thrived on ambition and cut down anyone in his path. "David," he called out, startling them both. "Did I hear your name? Great to see you here." The sudden weight of pressure loomed large. An old tension anchored in Sarah's chest as David turned to face Marcus, his expression shifting. She could sense the undercurrents, the stakes rising with every casual word exchanged between two men tangled in ambition. "Marcus," David replied, a hint of unease in his voice. "What brings you here?" The ripple of uncertainty spread through Sarah. Would Marcus try to snatch the opportunity from their grasp? And in that moment, she realized they were standing at the brink of something monumental. What if this encounter changed everything? What if it jeopardized their project? The mix of excitement and dread churned inside her as she watched their fates intertwine. Ready to play the corporate game? Marcus's question hinted at shadows hidden between ambition and betrayal. Sarah knew this was the moment everything would shift, and she held her breath, waiting for David's answer. David's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of recognition and wariness passing between him and Marcus. Sarah felt a chill as she sensed the undercurrents. The tension was palpable. Would David maintain his resolve in the face of Marcus's corporate games? Just discussing some plans," David replied, forcing a lightness into his tone. "What about you?" "Always looking for the next big play," Marcus quipped, his smirk dripping with arrogance. "I've been hearing about your project. You really think you can make waves with this?" Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the wheels turning in Marcus's mind, calculating, assessing threats. She stepped closer to David, letting her presence fortify him. "Absolutely," David said, his voice steadying. We're focused on what matters to our community. It's not just about profit. Marcus raised an eyebrow, amusement flickering across his face. Noble, but tell me, do you think investors are really interested in change? They want results, numbers that shine. You'd be better off dancing to their tune. His words dripped with condescension. Maybe some investors are, David countered, and there was fire in his tone. But we won't compromise our vision. Sarah felt a swell of pride as she heard him stand firm. In that moment, David was no longer just the man she cared for, he was a fearless leader in a charge for a better future. And how do you plan to get their attention? Marcus pressed, sensing the challenge. That's the plan we're working on, David replied, his confidence growing. We're building something real. Marcus tilted his head, sizing them both up. You really think you're going to get anywhere without knowing how to play the game? Game or no game, our integrity stays intact, Sarah interjected before she could stop herself. The words hung in the air, bold and defiant. Their eyes met, a moment of silent connection urging them to stand together against this corporate predator. Marcus's expression shifted, irritation creeping into his carefully sculpted facade. Integrity won't pay the bills, he said, his smile fading slightly. Just remember, I'm always watching. With that, he turned, slipping out the door, leaving an odd silence in his wake. As the door swung shut, a wave of relief washed over Sarah, mingled with uncertainty. David exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. Let us get back to planning, he said, trying to shake off the encounter. But the energy had shifted. Marcus's words echoed in her mind, planting seeds of doubt. Do you think he'll try to sabotage us? She asked, unable to keep the anxiety from her voice. David met her gaze, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. If he does, then we'll have to be smarter and work harder to prove him wrong. Sarah smiled, strengthened by his determination. Together, right? Together. They returned to their brainstorming, ideas flowing once again, ignited with pride and purpose. But as they scribbled notes and mapped out marketing strategies, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the battle ahead was more complicated than she'd anticipated. A sudden thought whipped through her mind: what if they failed? She brushed it aside but then noticed David had suddenly gone quiet, the spark of inspiration dimming. David? She asked softly, concern lacing her words. I can't ignore that Marcus is right, he admitted slowly. The road may be harder than we thought. No, we can do this. We have to believe. We're in this together, she insisted, searching his face for reassurance. He nodded, determination rebuilding his spirit. But deep down, Sarah felt a new knot of apprehension tightening within her. Just as they began to reorganize their notes, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down and felt her heart sink. It was an email notification: investment opportunity updates. Just as she opened it, a familiar name caught her eye, one of the biggest venture capitalists in the city. David, we need to talk to him, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. As they stared at the email, the momentum of their dreams hung in the balance. The difference between success and failure rested on a knife's edge, precarious but promising. Can we frame our pitch to align with what we believe in? Will it be enough? Suddenly, that strange blend of anxiety and excitement surged again. They were about to step into a new arena, one where every decision held weight. Whatever happens, we can't lose sight of why we started this, David replied, a fierce glint in his eye. They exchanged determined smiles, but as much as she wanted to feel hopeful, a new worry arose. Would they be ready to face the magnate? If you hadn't met Marcus today, Sarah began nervously, would you feel more confident? David frowned, weighing the question. Perhaps. But we can't let fear dictate our path. It's a fight we must engage fully. Yet another thought sprang to her mind: what if the fight involved choices neither of them anticipated? They stood on the brink of everything they dreamed about, but the stakes were climbing higher, the rivalry growing sharper. As they prepared for their next move, Sarah felt the weight of uncertainty pulling at her heart. They had taken a bold step, but with one powerful enemy in their path, could they really overcome? The thought lingered, a plea for survival in a world where anything could change in an instant. Would they truly be able to maintain their integrity while battling the ruthlessness of ambition? Just as Sarah looked to David for reassurance, her phone buzzed once more. Another message, and as she read it, dread washed over her. The email hadn't been just another update. It was a challenge, a deadline that loomed closer than they expected. "We need to act fast," she whispered, her stomach twisting as reality hit. And in that moment, she realized that the real challenge was just beginning. The room felt charged with an urgency that hung in the air, a stark reminder of their precarious position. Sarah's fingers trembled slightly as she stared at the email, the deadline flashing like a warning light. "What does it say?" David inquired. His voice was steady, but she could sense the undertone of concern. He wanted answers as much as she did. "It's a pitch competition." Sarah began, swallowing hard. "We have 2 weeks to submit our proposal, and the stakes are higher than ever. The winner not only secures funding but gets access to exclusive networking opportunities." David leaned closer, scanning over the content of the email. "This could be our chance," he said, enthusiasm building. "Imagine what it could do for our project." Or Sarah interrupted, the anxiety creeping back into her tone, "It could expose us to Marcus. He'll be watching closely. If we falter." David cut her off gently but firmly. "We won't falter. Not this time. We're prepared, right? Let us pour everything we've got into crafting a proposal that captures our vision. We can drown out their noise with something real." She felt his resolve rekindle her own dwindling spirit. Watching David work reminded her of his passion, his vision. In those seconds, she decided to shift her focus, to believe again. "Okay, let us do this," Sarah declared with renewed vigor. "We'll pull in everything we can. Data, community stories, market impact, let us weave it all together." The next few days blended into a whirlwind of brainstorming sessions, late nights fueled by takeout, and countless cups of coffee. Their small office was filled with sketches and sticky notes, each vibrant idea a beacon of hope. Amidst the chaos, Sarah saw David light up as they uncovered what made their project special. His passion spilled into every facet of their work. He pitched the idea to others as if it were a lifeline, a step towards something bigger than themselves. "Remember what Marcus said, though," she reminded him one evening as she watched the way his eyes lit up. "He's not going to let this slide." David paused, his expression growing serious. "I know. But if we stay true to our core values, we can stand firm. And maybe, just maybe, we can turn the tide in our favor." Weeks passed, and with each passing moment, Sarah felt her apprehension morph into a fiery determination. They were not just fighting for funding, they were fighting for something that mattered, a meaningful impact on their community and a chance to prove that integrity could coexist with ambition. As the deadline approached, pressure mounted. Each day felt like a ticking clock, a reminder that their dreams hung ever so delicately. The night before submission, they worked until midnight, refining, editing, and perfecting their pitch. "Do you think we did enough?" she asked, a hint of doubt creeping back in as they saved the final draft. David paused and took a deep breath, looking her in the eyes. "No matter what, we've put ourselves out there. That's what matters. If we fail, then we fail, but we did it our way." His words rooted in her. She realized that this wasn't just a competition, it was a test of their belief, a chance to define who they were and what they stood for. The next morning brought a heavy rain, mirroring the turmoil building within her. As they prepared to submit their proposal, Sarah felt a knot of worry in her stomach. "I can't shake this feeling, David. What if we're not ready for what comes next?" David placed his hand on her shoulder. "We'll face whatever comes our way. Together." Just as they pressed send, the silence broke. A massive rumble of thunder followed. She glanced out the window, where storm clouds filled the sky, and felt a chill run through her. Something told her that the tumultuous challenges ahead were poised to test them like never before. As they turned away from the computer, feeling both accomplished and nervous, David's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He frowned, looking concerned. "What is it?" she asked, heart racing. "It's from Marcus," he replied slowly, brows furrowing. "He wants to meet us. Immediately." Sarah's stomach flipped. What could he possibly want now? And just like that, the calm before the storm shattered into a million pieces. What awaited them in that meeting? The air grew thick with anticipation as they prepared to face the potential risks that could upend everything they had fought for. The meeting room felt like a pressure cooker, each tick of the clock amplifying the silence hanging between them. Sarah and David exchanged quick glances, both aware that this could be a turning point. The anticipation weighed heavily, and she suddenly felt a wave of doubt crash over her. David took a deep breath, trying to mask his nerves with an upbeat demeanor. "Just keep your cool," he whispered, a small nod of encouragement. His confidence should have reassured her, but uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her resolve. As Marcus entered, the room shifted. His presence was commanding, an aura of authority cloaked him. He offered a tight smile, but his eyes betrayed no warmth. Sarah bit her lip, trying to gauge his mood. Today wouldn't just be about their proposal, it felt like the start of a battle. "Thank you both for coming on such short notice," Marcus said, his voice smooth yet edged with tension. "I received your proposal." Her heart pounded in her chest. This was the moment. Did he like it? Would he tear it apart? "Yes, we put everything we had into it," David replied, standing tall. "We believe it holds real potential for the community." Marcus raised a hand, causing David to pause. "It's not that I'm not impressed." But he leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're not the only players in this game." Sarah's stomach turned. Of course, he wouldn't let them have this without a fight. "What do you mean?" she asked, pushing her voice to steady ground. "There are rival proposals, all promising community impact and innovative solutions," Marcus continued, resting his chin in his hand. "If you want your project to stand out, you need more than just a great pitch. You need numbers, and you need results that talk." Those words struck her like a storm's crack of thunder. They had fought so hard for their vision, and here he was, flipping their efforts upside down. But as she watched David, she noticed something shift in him. His frustration simmered into fierce determination. "Then we'll show you results," David said with surprising conviction. "We're not just offering a proposal, we're offering a partnership grounded in integrity. Our work at the community level is real, it has depth." Marcus studied him, a flicker of curiosity sparking in his gaze. "You really think that's enough? The business world is ruthless, it doesn't care about good intentions. It thrives on hard numbers." David continued, unwavering. "You might be right about that, but it takes a different kind of strength to build something that lasts. We can bring you that, an investment in people, not just profit." For a moment, silence reigned. Sarah's heart raced, unsure whether David's passion would sway Marcus or irritate him further. Yet it was that very passion that had drawn her to him in the first place, igniting something deep inside her. "Interesting," Marcus finally said, tilting his head slightly. "You've got guts, and I respect that. But if we're going to entertain this partnership, I want to see real proof. Can you gather community input? Show me direct support?" "Absolutely," Sarah shot back, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "We're already in touch with community leaders. We can set up a meeting this week, gather stories and testimonials. Real people, real results." Marcus's gaze hardened into focus. "And if it doesn't fly? If you can't deliver the next big thing?" David met Marcus's gaze head on. "Then we'll walk away without regrets." But we're not backing down from who we are. That's a promise. The tension shifted slightly in the room. Marcus smirked, perhaps impressed by their spirit, but Sarah felt the stakes rising higher with every word exchanged. All right then, Marcus conceded, leaning back. Let us see if you can turn those words into something tangible. 1 week. Bring me proof or your proposal ends here. As he turned to leave, Sarah felt a mix of relief and dread. They had a chance to rise to the occasion, but there was so much at stake. Once the door clicked shut, a heavy silence enveloped them. Do you think we can really pull it off? Sarah whispered, doubt creeping in again. As reality sank in, David's eyes held hers steadily. We have to. For us, for everyone who believes in what we're doing. We find a way. As they stood there, a sense of urgency enveloping them, Sarah realized this challenge was not just about winning a competition. It was about standing tall when the world pushed back. But as they began to brainstorm once more, an unexpected doubt began to creep in, a sudden question that left her breathless. What if Marcus was right? What if their vision wasn't enough? And with that haunting thought, she knew they were stepping into a whirlwind that could reshape everything they held dear. The following afternoon, Sarah and David found themselves huddled around the small table in the coffee shop where they had first brainstormed their project. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the crisp bite of autumn air filtering in through the open door. They needed inspiration, but uncertainty clung to them like a wet blanket. What if we organized a community forum? Sarah suggested. It would be a direct way to gather voices, testimonies, make it all visible, you know. Her eyes searched David's face, hoping to ignite a spark of excitement. David nodded, but his brow furrowed slightly. That could work, he agreed slowly, but we need more than just voices. We need numbers, facts that back them up. What if we blend testimonials with some data on the community's needs? Right. She exclaimed, her heart racing at the thought of action rather than worry. And we can use social media to reach out. We could do a call out for stories people need to feel invested and engaged. As the ideas spilled out between them, a sense of urgency transformed their doubt into a flurry of energy. They started outlining their plan, jotting down key points on napkins as if they were on the verge of a major breakthrough. But as the chatter of other patrons buzzed around them, a shadow of doubt still lingered. What if no one responded? What if their efforts were all for nothing? Could they really pull this off? Let us start with an online survey, David said, breaking the thread of silence that had begun to suffocate them. We ask the community what they want, and we can share those results at the forum. People will see that their voices matter. Exactly. Sarah felt a rush of hope wash over her. We can work together with local organizations. That'll build credibility. Just then, a woman at the next table leaned in, overhearing their conversation. Excuse me, she said, her eyes bright with curiosity. Are you two working on something for the community? Yes, we are. David said, his excitement bubbling over. We're trying to gather support for a project aimed at improving local services. I love that. The woman replied, almost gleefully. I'm actually a part of the neighborhood association. We'd love to back you up. How can I help? As they exchanged information, Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest. The universe seemed to conspire in their favor. A tiny but transformative spark ignited. If one person was willing to step forward, how many more would follow? After their conversation, they left the cafe, stepping into the vibrant street filled with the laughter of children and the chatter of busy adults. They were alive in this moment, the possibilities weaving through their minds like fireworks. As the week unfolded, they threw themselves into their endeavor with fervor. Social media posts, flyers, word of mouth. Each little effort seemed to build off the last. Soon they were meeting local leaders, organizing discussion panels, and finding ways to engage diverse voices. Women, men, the elderly, young families, all of them eager to share their thoughts. But with every success came an edge of anxiety. They had 1 week left before they had to present their findings, and the weight of that deadline loomed over them like a dark cloud. Would they be able to gather enough support to impress Marcus? One night, as they sat in Sarah's living room poring over responses and planning their presentation, David turned to her. "You know, I wasn't sure we'd make it this far. You've given me strength I didn't know I had." His earnest gaze caught her off guard. "It's you too, David. You know how to see the light when it feels dark. We can do this together." They shared a quiet moment, both of them absorbing the truth in each other's words. In that shared warmth, they began to believe maybe, just maybe, they had what it took to journey through the storm together. But as the clock ticked down, Sarah sensed something deeper lurking within her heart. Could it be real? The thought whispered at the edges of her dreams, what if they didn't just want to win Marcus over, but sparked genuine change? And with that lingering question, a new reality unfolded before them. What if their battle was about more than just their proposal? What if they were on the brink of something profound? The night before the community forum felt electric with potential. Sarah paced her living room, glancing at the numerous posters and flyers they had prepared. Each one represented a voice, a hope to repair the shelter burned to the ground, and a chance to foster connections in their community. This wasn't merely a project anymore, it was a movement, and tomorrow would be the nexus point. David arrived, his backpack slung over one shoulder, and an uncharacteristic nervous energy buzzed around him. "We've got this," he said, attempting to rally the spirits as he joined her in checking the final details. "I mean, so many people are ready to stand by us. There's strength in numbers." Indeed, the buzz from their outreach had been overwhelming. People were responding with eagerness, ready to show up, share their stories, and advocate for the ideas they so desperately needed. Together, they had tapped into a wellspring of community spirit. It was more than they dreamed of just a few weeks ago. Yet doubt lingered like a shadow. "I just keep thinking about Marcus," Sarah confessed, biting her lip. "What if he dismisses everything as just noise? What if the heart of this isn't enough?" David stepped closer, placing his hands on her shoulders, grounding her in the moment. "Remember why we started. We're not here to just check boxes on a list. We're doing this because these people matter. Let that be our heart as we present." The warmth of his words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. "Let us do this," she whispered, her resolve solidifying. They would face the storm together. The next evening, the community center buzzed with anticipation. As they set up chairs, tables, and displays of the data they had compiled, the room began to fill with families, friends, and neighbors. Voices melded into a symphony of hope, a palpable energy that even soothed Sarah's earlier trepidation. David stood at the front, heart racing but eyes shining with the conviction she had come to admire. "Thank you all for coming," he began, the room quieting to hear him. "This is about more than just us, it's about this community coming together to voice what truly matters." Encouraged, Sarah stepped beside him, looking at the faces before her. "We've gathered stories, data, and dreams together. Let us not just present numbers, let us share real lives and real impacts." As the stories unfolded, each voice brought the room closer to something bigger. Laughter, tears, and shared nostalgia rippled through the audience. A mother spoke of how her children had played in that shelter's playground. A senior citizen recalled warm meals shared during cold winters. Each story resonated. Energy filled every corner, empowering connection. As the night progressed, Sarah caught glimpses of Marcus lurking near the back of the room, his presence looming. But rather than intimidating her, it inspired a fiercer determination. They were fighting for something meaningful. As the presentations concluded, the vibe shifted. The connection between participants was tangible, sparking something truly special among them. David and Sarah closed out the forum, inviting everyone to rally behind their cause. The feedback poured in, people wanted to contribute, not just by listening, but by actively participating in change. That exhilaration turned into concrete support as they gathered signatures for petitions, volunteers for the rebuild, and donations for the cause. The energy crackled in the room as the community united, stronger than they'd ever imagined. But just as they were reveling in that unity, Marcus made his move, stepping forward, speaking with calculated smoothness. "Impressive effort, I must say. But you know as well as I do that to gain serious backing, you'll need more than just warm sentiments." He glanced at the crowd, the unease visible in several faces. "You need to solidify your numbers. Where's the data to back this up? Can one event truly sway investors? They want results. They want proof." David stood defiant. "We have proof in the stories we just shared. The hearts in this room are ready to unite for a cause. That means more than any number on a spreadsheet." "I doubt they want to invest in a feel-good story," Marcus replied, his words like ice. The tension surged, but Sarah refused to yield to fear. It was time to turn vulnerability into strength. "It's not just a feel-good story, Marcus, it's a necessity. Every person here tonight is a testament to a real need in our community, a need we're addressing. Every signature means something. We won't be sidelined." As murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience, she felt the passion ignite within them anew. The strength in numbers echoed around the room. "Fine," Marcus said, annoyance creeping into his tone. "I'll give you this week to prove your worth to me, but remember, I'm always watching." With that, he walked away, the weight of his presence lifting but leaving an expectation behind a looming challenge that they must not only meet but exceed. The night unfolded into a celebration of community and determination, and Sarah's heart swelled with hope. They had turned the tide away from fear and doubt, stepping boldly into a realm where they would fight against the odds and find strength in unity. In the days that followed, they transformed the energy from that night into astounding action. The community came together, embracing their mission with fierce loyalty. People were sharing stories, fostering connections, and raising funds. Each day hummed with purpose as David and Sarah forged ahead, partners in a vision that now felt inexorably theirs. As the deadline loomed again, Sarah found herself standing in front of David as they finalized their pitch for investors. The doubts had melted away, replaced by a spirit of readiness and empowerment that echoed in their hearts. "Whatever happens next, we've built something real here," she said with certainty. "Our connection to people, our commitment to make a difference, it's undeniable." David smiled, a warm light in his eyes. "Together, we've rewritten the narrative. No matter what, we won't lose sight of who we are." When they finally delivered their proposal, their passion shone through every word. Numbers were there, but so was the soul of their journey, the stories that mattered so much more than cold data. And when they finished, the room erupted in applause, a wave of collective belief surging around them. Weeks passed, and as they awaited feedback, life slowed down for moments of reflection. Love and friendship blossomed alongside their shared mission, their hearts intertwining like the roots of two trees growing together. What had started as a chance connection, clouded with uncertainty and the weight of responsibility, had transformed into something both beautiful and powerful. Then, one bright afternoon, an email arrived confirming their proposal had not just been accepted, but enthusiastically adopted. Investors were ready to help bring the community project to life. Tears of joy sparkled in Sarah's eyes as she and David embraced, overwhelmed by the culmination of their hard work. "This isn't just a win, it's just the beginning," David breathed, their laughter mixing with joy. He held her gaze, and in that moment, she was filled with the sudden realization of how deep their bond had grown amidst the challenge. The sun poured through their window, illuminating the promise of the journey ahead. They had each other, and together they would face whatever came next, not just as partners in a project, but as partners in life. Fear had indeed turned to hope, and in their hands rested a legacy that was bound to uplift their community, shining a light on all the radiant transformations yet to come. And with that, she knew this was their moment, their time to build, inspire, and flourish. "Now, here's where you come in. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories as we journey through the transformation of lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters and makes a real difference. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Tell us in the comments what you felt about the ending, and let us keep this incredible momentum going. Together, we can make waves.